of high school curriculums, if you could find one, or carnival, things. So, article analysis, remember, for Monday of next week, the turnitin.com, the article analysis guidelines you have over there. You already have paper copy, and remember, all that stuff's on Google Classroom if you need digital copy of those things. The big thing certainly would be just make sure you register for the class or turn it in, because you don't want to have any last minute issues taking place at 11:45 on Monday night when no one's going to be there to help you with it. So make sure you do take care of those things. So if you have any problems, we'll be good. We will have the laptops in class probably starting on, I don't know about Thursday, but I'd say on Friday of this week. So that would be something also that you'd be able to kind of take care of at the beginning of class. Register for the Turnitin if you haven't already, and then we'll be able to be good to go and check to see if you're having any issues with it. Come on. There we go. So I mentioned to you yesterday that Pitt gives us some topics that we need to take a look at each year. We'll really give us one topic for each year, and this is the one that that came up with. Social mass media improves the quality of democratic decision making. None of us are going to be debating this one word for word. So this is kind of the starting point, and then we're able to come up with our own resolutions that would fall under it. So long as one or both of these ideas of social mass media are incorporated, we would be okay. In some shape or form, it would have to work in with that democratic decision making. What does that mean to you, democratic decision making?
Does it improve how people make decisions? Because democratic implies everybody.
So like general public, everybody. Okay. So people make decisions, or choices. Would kind of be that way, and that would be like any choice. Again, it doesn't have to be political. When you hear the word democratic, all of a sudden people start thinking of American politics, or if you're taking a government class, something along those lines. But really, any kind of decision.
You could stem the people's decision making into Congress, because Congress is elected by the people.
Sure. Yeah. So there certainly could be ties that would connect to government, specifically Congress. Could go to president. When it comes to choices in government, we certainly had one of those just a few months ago with elections. Did social mass media improve the decision making that people made for elections? Some of you are going to nod your head yes. Monica's nodding her head no. And others would certainly kind of do that. So it absolutely could kind of go to a Congress. Does it maybe not even make decisions, but certainly it could inform people? Does it better inform people to make an appropriate decision? That could be about absolutely anything. Luke looked like hand was kind of moving.
Are we putting out suggestions?
Oh, we can, yeah.
An idea I have that's kind of pertinent is the mainstream media is all the time being accused of fake news now.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to combat that, I feel as though they should be trying to put more emphasis on deriving stuff from better sources. So I guess a prompt could be that the mainstream media has, because of the democratic decision making of the people, is being held accountable more so than they were in the past. It's a weird wording.
Yeah, I'm not certainly worried about specific wordings or anything at this point. Would you say held accountable in like a good way, like being fairly held accountable, or unfairly criticized, or that's still kind of up for debate?
That could be like an aspect of debate.
So, an idea at this point would be something like mainstream media accountability. When we say mainstream, and this doesn't have to necessarily be Luke answering it, what do you kind of consider to be mainstream media? Because I think based on age, those things can certainly kind of vary a little bit. Ryan, one example?
CNN, Fox News.
Okay, another?
I was going to say news.
So like news, like TV news.
Yeah.
That could be local or national. Anything else kind of fall under mainstream?
Newspapers, like their websites and stuff.
Yeah, and this is the one where you kind of start to. Is the newspaper still mainstream? But New York Times still means something. Washington Post still means something, whether you're looking at it being print or online. And so that's probably those two things I would say usually encompass the mainstream. And then certainly as you kind of start to get into social media, things absolutely start to switch a little bit. Luke, you said about mainstream media being held accountable. Do you think more people, and then Martin will get to you, do you think more people get their news from mainstream media or social media? And again, it doesn't have to be Luke answering, but
I think that a lot of it comes from social media because of the presence that mainstream media has on there. Like a tweet with like 140 characters with a headline or something could pretty much like give someone an initial reaction to something and then that forms their opinion.
and make no mistake, mainstream media has social media accounts. I mean, there's the New York Times Twitter page and Facebook and all those kinds of things certainly going on, Snapchats, Instagrams, whatnot. So certainly that blend is pretty pervasive, and it's not going to be just one thing. But we could certainly kind of take a look at reliability of social media versus mainstream media. Martin, you could go in a completely different direction.
It was kind of the same thing because I know that Zuckerberg was like one of the issues that popped up during the election was the pure amount of like false graphs and just lies that were on social media like Facebook. So he was like that they need to address that in the future.
Okay, so like misinformation showing up on. And I'm just going to say SM and MM to save myself some writing, but you could probably also go with MM for that too, mass media certainly. And some of this issue is, the ability of us to kind of discern, reliability. Is this going to be a valid source? Is it not a valid source? As opposed to probably just taking things at strictly face value for it. What was the YouTube news yesterday? Did you hear about viewership?
Oh yeah, I saw
Remember the number?
that. Oh, never mind.
YouTube has gone over 1 billion hours, of viewership that has taken place, which I don't think it's really surprising, and I don't think that's necessarily bad. But does it say anything about us and how we want to view things, get things, that you think you make the argument that more people are going to turn to a YouTube video as opposed to cable? To kind of start to get information. Again, not saying that cable would be the better place, but certainly there is that shift as to how people go about getting things. News feeds taking place through social media outlets and sources. Sunday night, we had our little Oscars fiasco. Did you hear one of the reasons why maybe the wrong envelope was passed out? The guy who works for the firm that was in charge of it, he was doing some tweets backstage and might not have been concentrating, grabbed the wrong one. Here you go, Martin, read that one, and then whoops. Which again has really very little to do with the idea that helps with democratic decision making, but is it so prevalent in our lives that maybe it can kind of take away from critically thinking things when it comes to decision making? That could be something to take a look at. What else? Social media, good thing. Don't even worry about decision making. And I'm not trying to get you to say it's bad. But what is good about it? Let's put it that way. Force you to say something good. What would be a good thing about social media and mass media?
One of the things about like YouTube, for example, how we're bringing it up, I noticed like during the elections, our YouTubers were like taking views, and immediately the community like responded. So, if like people are accountable because it's so easy to make a YouTube video, and it's not this really long, arduous process like with mass media. People on YouTube and like on social media are more accountable to what they say, and then because of that, people tend to start being more like respectful.
Years ago, longer than I guess I really want to probably start to admit, back when I taught the Crucible, we did a video project. We read the first 4 acts. Act 5 was up to you. Mary, Kendall, Monica, they would film Act 5. It was a big project because you had to get tape recorder and you had to like record and then edit using equipment and stuff. Now if we were to do that, hey, Aaron, I want you to make a video for me. Just do 2-minute, you making quick speech. Can you do that for tomorrow morning? Sure. Take phone out, be able to take it in no time. So yeah, the ease of use of this has absolutely become so much easier, much more attainable for us that you're right. You can get instantaneous feedback, which I think would kind of go back to the accountability point that Luke was mentioning before. It certainly is easier to offer criticism. It is easier to offer your viewpoints. It's also a great way to problem solve. If there's something that you can't figure out, people will post videos to YouTube where they'll go, all right, here's my AP Physics roller coaster project, everyone. I'm trying to figure this thing out. The track works here, but when I get down here, I have some kind of issue, car flies off every single time. What can I do? And you could post that question with the video as to looking at the thing on YouTube or any other website, and you probably get a couple hundred responses within the course of a day or two. So it's certainly a great way to respond to things. It's also a great way to get feedback, coming in when you're trying to deal with the problem. So yeah, that can absolutely be benefit. What else? Monica wants to show me a video from, which is in Brazil. We don't have to go to Brazil. She can just show it to me. So certainly you have that ability to connect abroad, whether that be people of interest, other locations. So great benefit in that way. Anybody big on the virtual reality thing? I haven't done it yet. I don't want to strap myself into the cardboard box and look around and get filmed on a commercial. What was the last thing you did with the virtual reality? Is it like sitting in a movie theater watching Netflix, or you just watch Netflix and feel like this the whole time?
It's like
Okay. So like 3D?
I guess so.
So I'm on try. I'm trying to gain information here. You're not helping. You're asking me rhetorical questions.
Well, I can't answer the question.
Try. We'll continue at lunch. I'll pick on candles for a couple minutes. I'll bring Oreos. For me. Let's keep eating. Other benefits. It's almost like they don't use social media. Or drawbacks.
It's entertaining.
Anything you're thinking of in particular?
I don't know. A lot of people use it, so it must be enjoyable.
Well, how about personal experience?
I have personal experience, certainly.
None whatsoever. I don't know. You kind of made people a little nervous with your sport debate. I've seen all of you on social media.
Yeah, no, I really just kind of made that up.
So you lied.
Oh yeah,
So that ethos is really taking a hit.
at least I can admit to it.
Can you?
I can.
Okay. Martin?
That there's a variety of viewpoints. Because you can basically find pretty much any viewpoint on the internet.
Which,
That can be a drawback as well.
well, I mean, yeah, it certainly can be. Any of these things, could to some extent, I guess, depending how it goes with. But variety of viewpoints, you would think, would end up being critical for a person trying to make a decision. What's the tricky part with the variety of viewpoints? And again, I don't want to make it sound like we're coming down on social media, because all of us, whether Connor says he does or doesn't, all of us use it certainly to some extent in a lot of ways to get viewpoints about things. Too many to go through is if you. How do you decide? I guess let's put it this way: you're working on some kind of project, assignment, or it doesn't even have to be academic, but you're trying to get information about something. I don't care what. What is your thought process as to how you go, that's a good source for me, nope, that's a bad source for me? What makes you go, this is what I want? So for example, if this is Mrs. Burns, anything with Bruce, she's going to take a look at it and go, yes, that is good. But based on whatever kind of content you're looking for, how do you decide good source, bad source, maybe?
If you have a bias leaning towards one way or the other, you're sort of in an echo chamber. You want to get sources that satisfy your existing bias. That's why, like mainstream media, if you are more liberal, if you watch Fox News, you're always going to be shaking your head. Whereas if you're more conservative, if you watch MSNBC or CNN, you'll be shaking your head. So really, you don't really accept those opposing viewpoints because you are sort of so deep in.
Well, and it's a great feeling to go, I was right. That person agrees with me. Yay for me. And you can pat yourself on the back. In kindergarten, first grade, second grade, why do kids raise their hand and want the teacher to call on them? Because they know the answer and they feel good and they want to, you're right, Kendall. Oh, I feel so good. Why starting like maybe 6th, 7th grade in calc, not that you're taking that 6th or 7th grade, in physics, do people stop raising hands? You don't want to be, sorry Evan, that's wrong. How many times did Mrs. Gaines say that to you? I'll yell at her when I get home. Flip out. No Oreos for her.
She'll be gone by the time you
Okay, you knew what would happen. So yeah, I think part of it when it does come to that research. Don't mean academic necessarily, but you look for things that you naturally align with, agree with. Hey, that person agrees with me. Yes, I'm right. Certain, a lot of like newsfeed apps that you use, whether you're going through Apple or Android or whatever. How do they start to decide what stories to show to me? It's based on previous articles that I have read. So certainly to a large extent, and I probably take a look at a newsfeed app more so than I sit at home at 5:30 at night and turn on the news. There's no way I'm staying up till 11 p.m. to watch the news. That's not happening. My news is filtered. Does that help me make decisions? Probably not in a good way, unless you're cognizant of it and then kind of start to go outside. So the variety of viewpoints, the potential is certainly out there for it, but the reality could be a whole nother thing. And I don't mean this to kind of be like a generational thing where if you had your life to live all over again, you'd still be younger than me. But are you more well informed, as a generation, as a group, than people older, younger? I don't know. The ability to be informed, again, about anything is certainly out there, but do we take a hold of that opportunity? That thing's probably debatable.
I was going to say another benefit is that it's like right there all the time going through this one.
Sure.
So it's like if we still were using newspapers and magazines, we would have to go out and buy.
You people just never got the joy of the encyclopedia. Need to look something up under doing science thing on the pancreas. Gotta go to the big P book, open that one up. Oop, needs to cross-reference to anatomy. Gotta close that book, go get the A book, open that one up, start cross-referencing. The encyclopedia was like magic. All that information in 26 volumes that you could lift if you had 4 days to transport from one place to another. People would then buy the updates to the encyclopedia. Here is the 1981 update version, now the 1982 update version. So now your 26 volume encyclopedia, as you add the years, is becoming 30 volumes, 35 volumes. Those were good days. So it's right there at your fingertips.
Sir, talking about the point that you were mentioning earlier with you have a great ability to be informed. Sort of on the flip side, you also have a greater ability to be misinformed because statistics are pretty easy to manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look at like how doing research papers, that's why like personally I try to find direct sources. Like even like for like scientific articles, I try to find the direct research paper.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
The original.
Yeah.
And this would kind of go with the, the whole charts, graphs, things where we were having, which I think you were mentioning earlier, kind of showing up where that misinformation can take place. And yeah, it's a difficult time to kind of tell if something is going to be accurate or inaccurate. And that's before you start throwing around terms like alternative facts, fake news, and things of that nature. Eric?
You also have an opportunity to be informed about stuff that really doesn't matter too much. Like, just a lot of, I don't know, it just seems like small things, but it's not really important to like, everyday life.
Dare I ask for an example?
I don't know, just like, I don't know, when you're watching like the news and TV, you always have like this thing that make you feel happy about yourself or feel good.
You can adopt a puppy.
Yeah. Something like that. Doesn't really matter, it's not that important.
How does that puppy?
Beyonce's twins.
Does that puppy matter in the country?
That's actually rare.
I'm getting her an Amazon gift card for her baby registry. No, I'm not. So the time spent on like news that matters or like decisions that would matter would be an aspect. Like, do we waste our time with needless things? And that's probably, and again, I think we kind of run the risk of making it sound like we're terrible people, or more specifically, you're a terrible person for wasting your time. But that's something that's always kind of gone on. But it's certainly easier to do it. And if you talk about academic research or things like that, when's the last time you sat down? Let's say you had to type essay. You guys had one all not that long ago, but you had to do some kind of project, sit down in front of a computer, and you went start to finish, no interruptions at all, and you spent those 2.5 hours, you got it completely done. That's almost impossible. Where some kind of ring going on. If Sarah wants to take a 5-minute break, put on the headset, go back to Netflix, and can watch that for a few minutes, then can go back to typing the essay. Absolutely, media streams taking place. If you check out a news article on ESPN.com, then you end up finding 12 different other subsequent articles that take place. Ooh, forgot about that whole assignment thing. So the ability to stay focused, or the number of distractors out there, I would say is certainly tenfold, than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. If in college at VU I had to get an essay done, I closed my door and go to it. It wasn't going to be nearly issued. Yes, there was internet, but cell phone, you could make calls. If you were going to text someone, you had to hit like the C button or the number 1 button 3 times just to get a C, let alone a capitalized C. So it was certainly much more difficult for those things. So yeah, the distractors can certainly limit the amount of information that would be taking place.
So are we doing disadvantages now?
Well, what we're ultimately going to, not necessarily. Let's say you and Monica end up being partners with this. You're going to take a specific resolution that you guys might come up with tomorrow. I'm going to give you some possible ones that you can kind of work with. But let's say that Luke's first one talked about the accountability. The formal mass news media is not held to proper standards of accountability today. You could take the affirmative of that they are not. Monica could take the negative, no, they are. The resolution doesn't have to be negatively worded. It could be something like general public in 2017 is much more informed than it was in 1997, 20 years ago, and argue affirmative. Yes, this is why it is. Monica could take the negative. No, this is why it is not. So, half of us, yes, will be arguing a negative. But that doesn't mean that the resolution has to be critical of media. And I don't want to make it sound like, that you have to take a negative stance on viewpoint of an issue. Mass media, social media has certainly played a larger part in like presidential elections and things like that. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. If you were going to elect a president in 1858. That wasn't an election year, but well. How'd you make your decision? Whatever you're able to read in a newspaper, if you were literate, number one, you could read, and otherwise it's probably what people told you. Is that a whole lot different from social media? Ryan's still telling you something. He's just doing it over a different form. You might get more voices coming at you than you could have 150 years ago or something like that, but that process is probably still very much the same. If you were electing a president during the Great Depression, FDR's running, how were you going to come about your decision? Well, newspaper, still Ryan's thing of what people were going to tell you. How could you connect with FDR directly? Sort of. Radio. Does FDR get elected in 2016? I don't think so. Because I don't think the American public votes for a man in a wheelchair. Now again, not saying better or worse, but there have certainly been some changes that take place, but I don't think that social or mass media is such a game changer that all of a sudden in 1856 people were making the appropriate decision, and now all of a sudden in 2017 we're making the wrong decision. I don't even know if it's easier to make a wrong decision. I think it might be easier to make what you perceive to be an informed decision, but not going through all those levels and steps that Martin talks about wanting with like primary sources and things like that.
I think a lot of people they take the information from social media sites about elections and that kind of stuff, and they don't understand that. I'm not saying the sites do, but they're able to censor what's on there. And I think that's it allows someone else to really if you believe that everything on your computer is not being taken off of or whatever, take that from your
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there is that, and it might not be censorship in the way that you kind of think of it as formal political, but there's still that security. And the big thing I would say is, opposed to 50 years ago, like say everything you're running through the newspaper, the morning edition. Now the concern is instantaneous news. So the primary concern isn't to be correct, but it's to be the first one to report it, which is where you get a lot of those news stories on disappearing. Oops, we were wrong. Take it down. We can't have a record of it having been on there. Martin getting close to them.
What?
See you getting close to my cookies.